So yeah, the season's over. I'm still terrified of the Miami Heat as a Celtics fan because they are in a prime position to do a whole bunch of stuff. They've got cap space this offseason. We'll see if they take a swing there or if they save their cap space for next year. But if you just project moving forward, they can afford basically everybody. They can afford Jimmy, Bam, because Bam's going to get a max. We all know that. A max free agent after next season. Duncan Robinson's extension, because we assume at the most it costs like $15 million a year. And then Tyler Herro will still be on his rookie contract after next year. So all of that combines to about $120 million. The salary cap in 2022 as of right now is projected to be $125, so they're not even pushing the luxury tax in that scenario. And I'm pretty sure there's no cap holds that mess them up from signing a guy. Like Robinson's cap hold is going to be $2 million if they don't extend him before he actually hits free agency. So it's looking good. This is all assuming they decline Iguodala's team option in 2022, which I would assume they're going to do. Now, there is one thing I've seen that says they're not going to give him the max extension this offseason to give themselves more cap space after next year. Bam's cap hold will be about $12.8 million, and his max extension would be $27, so they would be saving themselves some money. I mean, Bam will still have a max extension by the time the 2022 regular season starts. It's just, if Miami chooses to do it that way, then they'll just have more money within free agency to do stuff. But of course, there are other things to care about. So for one, they're going to keep Dragic. If they do, I would imagine it's going to be on a contract that is not as much money as we would have thought based on how good he was in the playoffs, or it's a one-year deal. Because I just don't think that they're going to hold on to Dragic and compromise their cap space in the 2022 offseason. And I think you can apply that same logic to Gallo, who, if there was going to be a free agent that Miami could go for, I guess he would be the guy just because they were rumored to want him at one time. And I mean, maybe you could arrange some sort of a sign and trade to where you're not adding too much money to the team. But besides that, it's still, I just don't know. Because I really feel like they just want to have the money for the real free agent class and go for that other big-time player. But if they wanted to make more of an instant impact, then getting a guy like Gallo could, of course, be good for him. Now, there's also the chances of them holding on to Jay Crowder or Myers Leonard or whoever. I mentioned Dragic again. So we'll see what they want to do there. We'll see how much they really want to shake it up. In terms of just the basketball stuff, I mean, Bam's going to keep getting better. It's only his third season. Are we going to see him attempting threes next year? Maybe. I wouldn't be shocked to see his free throw percentage improve. He shot 69% there this year. I would imagine he's going to get better at dribbling and beating guys in one-on-ones, and he's going to refine his post skills a little bit. Could Bam average 20 points a game next season? I don't know if he's wired to do that, but the one way I think it could happen is if he just shoots a whole bunch of free throws because teams can't help but foul him. That or the threes start being a thing, or if he's just super threatening from mid-range. Whatever it may be, I think Bam can do it. And for what it's worth, he was very good from mid-range in the playoffs. He was in the mid-40s on his percentages. A lot of them were those like 13-foot jumpers after he would catch a pass from Dragic on the roll. I remember them specifically against my Celtics because they had no answer for it at all. And then, of course, defensively, we know what Bam can do. We know that he can switch across a bunch of positions, and I would imagine that we're just going to see him get smarter defensively. And it is kind of frightening to think about his ceiling on defense. The other question will be if Spoelstra wants to go with two bigs or if they just want to roll with just Bam moving forward because they, of course, did that in the playoffs. I don't know. But, yeah, Bam is special. And I really don't know what the guy's ceiling is. For Duncan Robinson, I don't know if we're ever going to see him doing much off the dribble. We could see him maybe improve defensively, perhaps put on some weight. I guess that would be it, because offensively, I feel like Robinson is kind of what he is, which is a very valuable player for obvious reasons. I don't really picture him doing too much off the dribble or posting up or taking that many mid-rangers or any of that stuff. I would imagine what we saw from Robinson's stat line this season, 14 points, 45% from 3 on 8 a game, basically the same thing in the playoffs. I think that's just going to follow suit for his whole career. In the case of Tyler Herro, that one's a little bit different. I think Herro has potential to be a 20-point scorer. Whether he will actually be that, we're going to have to wait and see, but the confidence and the shot-creating skill that is already there, and I think with Miami's motion offense and stuff, Herro can be good. He averaged 16 a game in the playoffs. And I mentioned it a little earlier. The fact that he's only making $4 million in 2022 is insane because, for how good he's going to be 2 years from now to be making that little amount of money and giving Miami the luxury of affording another max guy, that's the type of stuff that NBA teams dream of. I should also mention Kendrick Nunn does fit into this as well. I don't know what his extension's going to look like, but he's going to be a free agent after next season, assuming Miami picks up his non-guaranteed option. So yeah, they look pretty good. I mean, if we project just next season in the East, you're looking at the Bucks, the Heat, the Celtics, Raptors, Nets, Sixers. Miami's got a chance among all those teams. I mean, if the Nets, I got to do a video on the Nets, but if they're totally healthy, I think they're the favorite. I just feel like there's no way you can predict them to actually be healthy. Like Kyrie has missed significant time in 2 of the last 3 seasons. KD's got the Achilles. Karras has dealt with injuries since he showed up in the NBA, before he was even in the NBA. And especially with Kyrie, the thing that's frightening is it's not as if he's just having these random injuries. It's the same thing over and over. It's his knees, it's his kneecap, that one postseason for the Cavs. For the Nets, it was a shoulder thing, and that wasn't the first time that he had problems in his shoulder. So that doesn't look great. But again, if they're healthy, I think they're the favorites. For the sake of the Celtics, I mean, you assume Tatum and Jalen get better. You hope Hayward's healthy. Maybe the Celtics end up making some moves. Who knows? The Sixers are always a thing in this, but whatever case you want to make for other teams, Miami's right there. And I'll mention the Raptors if I haven't already. And respect to the Indiana Pacers, but I don't think they're really in the group. Could Miami make some sort of a trade? I don't know, man. Their draft pick situation is not ideal for moving stuff. They've got a bunch of their picks locked up in the monster of draft picks going to the Thunder. They can trade their pick on draft night, but even then it's like, what do they really have to move? I mean, I guess Dragic and a sign and trade, that could be something for another team looking for a point guard. Iguodala's contract is immovable, especially because in 2022 it's a team option, which is part of the reason why they're able to afford basically everything they'd want to keep after next year, because they can just drop Iguodala's money. Besides that, I don't know. I mean, Kelly Olynyk's got a $12 million expiring. Some team could want him. Should be set on the Dragic sign and trade. It would have to be at minimum a 3-year deal. That's the sign and trade rule. So I think they've got the money to make a move. And I guess some team could look at Olynyk as a real asset, but the only other tradable guy to me is Kendrick Nunn. Like, if you paired up Olynyk's $12 million, Kendrick Nunn, and then their first this year on draft night, I think you could get something decent. It would have to be a guy around the $15 million range, unless you want to do Iguodala. I guess that could work too in this. But as far as who that could be for, who's available and all that, I don't know. Because again, like whoever Miami's acquiring, they got to be a guy who's not going to kill their chances of making moves in free agency. Unless a star player becomes available, I guess. At that point, you'd be a little more okay with trading Herro or whoever, but we'll have to see. I don't think Oladipo's good enough with his injury stuff to want to give up Herro. If it was Bradley Beal, perhaps a different conversation. I'm assuming Drew Holiday will be mentioned a couple times for Miami over this offseason. Would I trade Tyler Herro for Drew? No, I would not. If Drew was like 4 years younger, maybe. But I think Herro is going to be really, really good. I should also mention from earlier, Kelly Olynyk's on a player option. He could decline that, which takes away one of Miami's potential trade dudes. But that's it, man. I think as far as next season is concerned, I don't know if Miami's going to be making a significant move. I feel like they might just look pretty similar and they could bring back Dragic on a 1 year and basically just run it back and bank on improvement from Bam and Herro and maybe Kendrick Nunn and perhaps Duncan Robinson. And then after next season in free agency, that's when they get the next star for this team, whoever it may be. Unless they decide to get more aggressive this offseason, but I just don't totally feel like they're going to do that. I guess I could also mention that there's a chance they could sign someone to a smaller contract, maybe a $12 million type of dude, and I think they would still be able to squeeze under the salary cap in 2022, assuming they declined Iguodala, and then they still signed a max guy, and Duncan Robinson's extension wasn't too big. So they are looking good, pretty much. They'll be back next year, and they're going to be here for a while.